Thank you PCBWay for sponsoring this video. If you're like me and you love gaming, but rely on the rest of your team to carry you, and it's so much worse when your controller sucks. Let's be honest, it's not just the controller that sucks, but at least we can fix that. The one I have here drifts downward, so it's hard to shoot something other than my own feet. So let's order a joystick from iFixit, get it delivered, open up our controller, and get this fixed. I've taken apart an Xbox Series controller before to paint it, but never completely disassembled it to replace the joystick. First step was to remove these hand grips, though the entire process, if you feel like you're about to break something, it's probably because you are, except for this part. You'll have to use an alarming amount of force just to remove these cosmetic covers. But once those are popped off, you can remove the following 5 screws and the faceplate comes right off. To go a little deeper, the top buttons are next. The sync button plastic can be removed by prying up on these 2 plastic arms. Then the shoulder buttons also need to be pried, but from the sides this time. Next part we need to remove on our sad little robot thing is the shoulder triggers. We'll have to unscrew the trigger, then once more we'll need to pry the triggers away from the rumble motor underneath. It should all just kind of crumble away, leaving you with just the motor and the plastic bits. Do not attempt to remove any rumble motors from the PCB because you'll have to resolder them on. Pry away another plastic arm on the lower rumble motor to gently remove them as well. The D-pad has a metal ring you can remove by prying the top of it. The D-pad itself should be loose and set aside, then flip it over. And the lower board with our joysticks just needs a little pull to detach it from the other PCB. Again, if you feel like you're using too much pressure, it's because you are. Unfortunately, these joysticks are soldered on, so you get the very unpleasant task of desoldering them. If you're here to fix a controller, but want to accessorize, then PCBWay can be cheaper than buying a printer yourself. There's tons of stands, wheels, accessories that you can download the STL for and have PCBWay print for you with nearly any material. Want it out of metal? They offer CNC machining too, if you can get it converted. Finally, if you're ambitious and you think you can make a better controller, then you'll still need PCBWay for custom PCBs and PCB assembly. Check them out in the link below for $5 off your first order. This wasn't pretty. In fact, it was downright brutal. The solder here was old, so flux didn't help much. Future Tony here, editing a video I meant to finish months ago. I'm about to do this with a Ryobi soldering iron, which was awful. Take my advice, go get a $30 hot air station off Amazon because I finally got one and it would have made this repair 100 times easier. Now onto the carnage. Heating wasn't uniform, and honestly, the thing that helped the most was covering it in new solder and then desoldering it from there. In a fit of rage, I may have ended up using flush cutters to snip the pins, turning up the temperature, and being a little more convincing than I should have been. I don't recommend you do that, so I recommend you take your time. It just happened to work out, because if it didn't, I wouldn't be doing this voiceover. Now that our effortless desoldering is complete, slide in the new joystick and tape it in if it isn't held in by friction already. Solder a few pins, remove the tape, continue to solder each remaining pin and verify your work. This isn't just good, it's good enough. Since YouTube won't let me change the playback speed to -1, I guess we'll have to montage this reassembly. Okay, so the only real tricky part about reassembly is where the wires go for the shoulder motors. I cut to my successful attempt here, but in no way did it take one try. Essentially, you'll want as little slack as possible up by the shoulder buttons, and the actual slack should be down by the edge of the controller, where you can tuck it in by the PCBs. This is important because otherwise the shoulder buttons won't work, or they'll just be mushy. Throw some batteries in, start it up, load up some Halo, and time to... Nope, it's not me. It's the game that's wrong. At least the stick drift issue is solved.
Yard safe. Mounted and loaded. Double kill.